Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Today, we are breaking down my numbers 11 through 20 top 50 prospects in the 2024 NFL Draft. Guys, if you love the draft, please consider subscribing. Let's go. I think the top two are your blue chip guys. After number two, I think we get into some discussion about who should be number three. For me personally, I went Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State, man. This guy is awesome, especially if you're an Eagles fan. Is one to watch out for moving forward because he offers a lot of the things that we loved about a previous Ohio State wide receiver that was drafted this year. He was the second most valuable Power 5 receiver in 2022, according to PFF's win above average metric. The only one more valuable was his teammate, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think while he was in Harrison Jr.'s shadow, like there's nothing secondary about this dude, especially when it comes to stats. 74 catches, over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, just off Harrison's pace last year. Ranked sixth nationally in receiving yards. Harrison ranked sixth nationally in receiving yards. Egbuka ranked ninth. So he's a smooth route runner. He has some similarity to Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I think Egbuka is a little more physical. 6'1", 205 pounds, great separator, great short area agility, great change of direction. He's a great prospect. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, it's funny because Ohio State just is seemingly just printing wide receivers at this point, and yeah, I feel like for him you have him on any other major team, and he's clear cut number one. Obviously, behind Marvin Harrison, yeah, he kind of can get a little lost, but like you said. He may have been in the shadow, but he still produced like quite a bit. So the fact that he was able to do that with Harrison being such a great prospect just shows that this kid is something special. And I think he deserves to have his own special whatever you want to call it. But I think he could potentially be a top 10. Again, depending on needs of the teams in the draft, he certainly has the skill set. He is 6'1", 205, really nice agility, speed, explosiveness, a really nice blend of all of that. And he's a great route runner. He is really good at kind of exploiting the soft zones in the coverage. And just has this natural ability, to get open. So, I think he is right behind Marvin Harrison. Obviously, Harrison's a great prospect, and again, like we said, one of the better ones we've seen in the last few years. But he's got to get some praise here too, because he is a very skilled wide receiver. And again, I think if he would have been out this year, he probably would have been the number one prospect over Njigba.
It is Dallas Turner, linebacker, edge rusher. Dallas Turner, not a guy who's as powerful or strong as Will Anderson Jr., who was a flat-out stud for Bama the last few years. But he's got a unique mold in his own right. He has versatility. He has great closing speed. He can swallow up runners in pursuit. He can cover a ton of ground in the box or when he drops back into coverage. I think what I like most about Dallas Turner, let me get my graphic up. There it is. What I like most about Dallas Turner is there's a positionless element to his game. He can attack the quarterback.
He can thrive in coverage. He played all 13 games last year, including 10 starts. Once this dude started for Alabama, he never looked back. He tallied 37 tackles, 8 stops for loss, 4 sacks, 9 quarterback pressures, and returned a fumble for a touchdown. I think this is a guy, if everything clicks in 2023, has top 5 pick potential in next year's draft, and I think he's due for a monster season. Any thoughts on Dallas turnaround?
Yeah, I mean he's coming into this season essentially trying to fill Will Anderson's shoes, which is a big task for sure. But you know, at 6'4", 240, you know, over the last 2 years, he's totaled 12.5 sacks and 18 tackles for loss. You know, he really has very high level to elite burst. He has amazing bend, and his kind of ability to mix in the speed with the power is pretty nice in the college game, and can be pretty destructive. So I think he has a long way to certainly fill those shoes, but I think you know, a great season at Alabama, he could be right there and kind of be considered in the same fashion as Anderson for this upcoming draft, kind of that top 5 potential draft pick here for sure.
A guy I'm really high on, and I've seen other outlets not so high on, but I think is a sensational prospect. Kalen King, cornerback out of Penn State. This is a guy that really had a lot of production in 2022. Like, you saw a lot of teams kind of stay away from Joey Porter Jr. in last season. And King saw a lot of action, man. He was one of only 3 FBS players with 20 plus passes defended. This guy has first round potential written all over him. 5'11", 190 pounds, led all corners in the country with a PFF grade of 93.3 and an unreal 18.3 passer rating allowed in single coverage, man. So this guy was tested and he produced at an elite level, man. I think he's got natural coverage athleticism, plays with a lot of physicality and coverage and run support, man. True ball hawk that I think will also dominate in the draft process. What are your thoughts on Kalen King?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I think, you know, last year people were, you know, trying to avoid Joey Porter, and he got a lot of work. And you know, he stepped up, and like you said, you know, plenty of pass deflections. I think he had 3 interceptions last year. Yeah, he was absolutely, you know, had a great season, and had a lot of work because of teams avoiding Porter. So yeah, I really look for him to kind of take that next step this upcoming season. He seems to just have this natural coverage ability. You know, he has good burst, good fluidity, especially, you know, changing directions, and just has a knack for the ball. Just really good ball skills, and he really, you just watch, you know, film on him, highlights on him. He just seems to play with a passion. And that to me comes across, you know, when seeing him play. So all those things to me, I think, really add up. And definitely, you know, when we talked about our rankings, yeah, I saw that not a ton of people had him as high, but you know, when we kind of sat down and talked about it, it was a clear choice that. You know, he is going to be one of the better cornerback prospects. Obviously, there's a couple already we talked about last week, but yeah, I like him, honestly, and I'm hoping he kind of builds on his season from last year and takes over Porter's kind of number 1 role, and yeah, just continues to improve. I just like him.
I started the show talking about my number 1 quarterback in the ACC. This is up for debate. Because at number 4, we're talking about Jordan Travis, quarterback for Florida State. The dude is extremely talented. He's a guy that he just made a huge leap forward in his development, especially in 2022. Over 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. while also adding over 400 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns. His PFF grade of 91.7 ranked third among all quarterbacks in the country and led all Power 5 last season. So he's a big time playmaker with his arm. And what I really like is he really keeps the turnovers down. He just has a turnover-worthy play rate of 1.9%. Scouts are going to absolutely love that. He's a 6-year senior. He's right there with May in terms of Heisman candidate. He's going to put up huge numbers in 2023. Bit undersized, 6'1", 201 pounds. Doesn't have elite arm strength, but this is a elite game-changing running threat, dual threat that can get the ball into buckets outside the numbers. You look at Jordan Travis and that duo of like Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, who I think is going to be underrated, have a really good year. That has the potential to be one of the nation's best offensive trios. Jordan Travis is legit, man, and he's definitely the guy that could shock Clemson and Miami for sure. What are your thoughts on Jordan Travis?
Yeah, he wasn't, a big recruit coming out of high school. I think he was a 3-star. And yeah, he seems to have been around under the radar for quite some time now, and he's finally kind of getting his opportunity. He has an amazingly strong arm, and you can tell he's able to make all the NFL throws and make them pretty easily. He certainly has the ability to kind of thread the needle with his accuracy, and it's got some really good zip on it, and he demonstrates that game in and game out, and good touch. So I'm really kind of excited to see, because as you said, he may jump up there with the top quarterbacks, and I feel like a lot of people aren't very high on him right now. And I think that could be to his advantage. There's not a ton of pressure as far as the national scope goes. But yeah, he has great size. He's physical, has kind of the almost kind of the perfect stature for a quarterback, so to speak. So I think with his arm strength and his quickness, yeah, he can kind of come out of nowhere this year and again take that Florida State, which should have a nice sneaky defense, and do some damage here to some of the major players in the ACC. That's for sure.
Going back to Ohio State, JT Tuimoloau, edge rusher. Speaking of going after Penn State, because if you saw this guy play against Penn State, man, he's probably their most hated player in college football, because he absolutely wrecked Penn State. He recorded in one game 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. One of those was returned for a touchdown, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, a tackle for loss, a batted pass, and 3 pressures in one game.
Jesus.
I made a video, a highlight reel of that, of course, and send it to all of my Penn State friends.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure they had a good day that day.
Yeah, I'm just that a-hole. But yeah, let's talk about this guy. I mean, after that Penn State game, that's when you kind of start to see the holes in this guy as a prospect. Let me get this guy's graphic up. There he is. All right, so he clearly needs to be more consistent, because much of his that was his game of the year. He only had a 67.0 PFF grade in the other 12 games per PFF. His physical tools are amazing. 6'4", 277 pounds. Rare blend of size, flexibility, power. Big time playmaker, as we mentioned. And he always seems to be around the football. He had 10.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 picks, and 4 deflections in 2022. This guy has first-round potential, I think, for sure. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. Needs to be a little bit more consistent. He had obviously that big Penn State game, but kind of came up small in some other games during the season. But he's got a really good size. Really nice, burst off the line, and has some good power and good power moves. So, he seems to kind of have a knack for the ball, and for the quarterback. But like you said, just needs to kind of, get a little bit more consistent. I think he does have the potential to be, even a top 15 pick if his, season kind of goes the right way here, and he can kind of take, a little bit of that Penn State game and kind of put it more throughout the rest of the games of the season. But he doesn't. His flexibility is one thing that I've heard about him, and that he needs to work on. Not the most flexible. Kind of needs to improve that bend, so to speak. And his hands, again, needed a little bit of improvement, but his upside is honestly just you see what he is capable of. And again, you see these games and you're like, wow, this guy is just a dominant player. He just needs to put it all together. And, again, maybe he just needs to play Penn State a couple more times and he'll be fine.
And that is Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson, man. We talked earlier in our SEC rankings where we were raving about Omar Speights from LSU. And, that combination of Harold Perkins and Omar Speights has so much potential. This might be better. The duo of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Barrett Carter is, I think, the elite duo at linebacker in 2023, man. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. There he is. He is just a lightning bolt out of his stance. Attacks downhill with some of the best of the best. He's a great pass rusher, very good in coverage, great closing burst. He was a 5-star recruit, has not disappointed, man. So I look at this guy as like a true modern NFL linebacker, mostly due to his versatility. He's a mismatch weapon for any defense. He's got the ability to drop into coverage. He can play the slot, but where he's at his best, unlike Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I think, is in the box with his quick trigger and explosiveness. This guy is my number 2 or 3 linebacker in my overall linebacker ranking. But Barrett Carter, man, I think he could be a top. It's crazy to say linebacker in the NFL draft anymore because positional value is everything. But in terms of like best, most talented, he might, like, if you're ranking on purely most talented, he's right up there, like top 20 guy. That's how good he is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. It's tough nowadays, with some of these positions that have been devalued in the NFL, running back, linebacker being 2 of them. It's hard to kind of picture where he may go because, again, different teams, different needs. But yeah, if you're just going like top, big board type, yeah, he's up there. He's definitely top 3 linebacker for me. And the fact of the matter is he shares the space with Potter, and the middle of their defense is unreal. It's absolutely unreal. The Carter is an absolute game changer, just like Trotter. He had 10 and a half tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. I mean, he is all over there. He's, just lightning in a bottle, so to speak. Great at attacking downhill. And, has, as they, one of those buzzwords that I keep seeing next to his name is he has great twitch.
LSU is absolutely loaded this season with Harold Perkins, but we're not going to talk about Perkins because he's not draft eligible yet. Harold Perkins will be a top 10 pick when he is eligible because he's incredible. But the guy we're talking today is Malik Nabers, a wide receiver. He's got legit speed. He's an amazing threat downfield. He can offset and stack defensive backs with ease. Unbelievable run after the catch ability for his size. This is a guy who can stop on a dime. Get my Nabers graphic up. There it is. He is a guy I think is going to dominate the draft process and the combine when that time comes. He reportedly ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, a 38-inch vertical in high school. He plays with physicality in the air. He can also track offline deep throws without losing any velocity. He reached 1,000 yards receiving last year, played his best ball in the final few games. With him and Jaden Daniels, I think the sky is the limit. He's a great route runner who can effortlessly flow to passes with his hands. And after the catch, man, the guy is just straight dynamic, as we said. Ryan, what's your thoughts on Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably mention the long line of LSU wide receivers here, but I think he could be the next, great one to come out of Louisiana for sure. He has legitimate speed. He's a threat down the field. His yak ability is pretty dominant. And just considering, his size as well, he really seems to kind of have this unique flexibility about his route running and his catching. And yeah, I think, there's always going to be a little hype with when any LSU wide receiver comes up here. But I think Neighbors has the ability to kind of rise above that and really take that to the next level in this upcoming season. Definitely excited to kind of, there's obviously some really great wide receiver prospects. So he might get lost in the shuffle when it comes to, the overall wide receiver group here. But I still think he's going to be kind of one of those sneaky good wide receiver prospects that, wherever he ends up going in the NFL will really get a nice threat in the passing game.
Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois, finally outside of Ohio State. It took us to number 6 to get there. But Johnny Newton, let me get his graphic up. Hold on one sec. There he is. Let's talk about Johnny Newton, man. The dude was, playing on a dominant defense back in 2022. You look at the talent, man. Devin Witherspoon, Sidney Brown, Jartavius Martin, all guys that were at the top of their position. And had he declared Johnny Newton in 2022, he probably would have been also right there, especially in a weak defensive tackle class. 6'3", 295 pounds, quick upfield penetrator, good athleticism, good twitch, relentless play style. According to Pro Football Focus, he was the highest graded interior Big Ten lineman against the run, rushing the passer, and overall. Elite production, man. He finished 2022 with 59 pressures and 13 tackles for loss or for no gain. He's just got immense amount of production and potential. What are your thoughts on Johnny Football? Johnny Football, jeez. Johnny Football.
Honestly, like you said, Illinois had a sneaky good defense last year. Newton kind of is just given his size and his just natural athleticism and ability. I feel like he should be able to play pretty much anywhere on the line. Whether it's interior or edge. He has this ability to just absolutely just destroy blockers. Really just seems to kind of just go through them at times. And a lot of that is certainly his, his flexibility, but also you can kind of sense this. He just has this motor, just real high motor, and just super energetic on the field. So I think that kind of combined with really good hands. Again, that's a big thing that I read about him. Everybody just loves his hands. And you can kind of see it as he kind of, just moves through blockers sometimes. I think, he has, a good potential in the NFL. Again, he's versatile, can play anywhere on that line. So I think for, the right team in the NFL, he could really be, one of those guys that just kind of sneaks up on you and ends up having a really good, productive career in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm worried about his 2023 season, man, because you got to like think about how much Illinois lost.
Right.
Man, like their secondary is gutted. Who do they have at quarterback? You know, this they had their one of their best seasons ever, and this is a team that I think could potentially get picked on when it comes to Johnny Newton, because like remember like George Karlaftis for Purdue, like he was double triple teamed all season long, and his stats suffered for it, and his stock dropped somewhat through that season and draft process, especially when you have some casuals like just looking at surface stats. I remember talking about it a lot. So yeah, Illinois is kind of in a tough spot in 2023, but he's a great prospect.
Sticking with LSU here, we are talking about Mason Smith, defensive tackle out of LSU. I think the question is whether or not Mason Smith can come back to 100% after missing most of 2022 with a torn ACL. Expectations were through the roof in 2022 for Mason Smith until he suffered a knee injury in the season opener while celebrating a play. If he returns healthy, man, this guy has definite first-round potential. 6'5", 300 pounds, overwhelming power profile, man. Great closing burst. Plays with urgency in pursuit. He has high energy athleticism and a hot motor. Has no problem just dominating through contact and getting to the quarterback, man. I think if he's healthy, again, that's a big if. But playing in a rotation with Mekhi Wingo, who is a super underrated prospect in his own right, I think that's going to allow Mason Smith to kind of get freed up and do what he does best, which is disrupt in the backfield. And it's important to note that 2 weeks ago, it was announced that Mason Smith was fully cleared for football activities, and he took part in individual drills, man, during spring camp. Let me get up my Mason Smith. There it is. Ryan, any thoughts on Mason Smith, man? This guy's a beast.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. He's just a monster. He's a big dude. He just is super powerful. And yeah, it's 100% gonna, his return from injury is really gonna determine whether or not he can be a first round prospect here. I think if he is 100% good to go, I don't think there's any question that this guy is gonna just eat up running backs and quarterbacks this upcoming season. So, I think, like you said, he has a really high floor. I'm just impressed with his power, honestly. He just seems to have this ability when you look at film from back in 2021, where he had 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Again, you just saw the power. He would just move people like they were nothing. So, I think if he continues, and like I said, that injury, he's past that, he could absolutely be one of the best interior defensive linemen to come out for this upcoming year.
I think this guy is one of the most versatile defensive backs in the entire draft, man. Amazing tape. Amazing fun watch, especially on YouTube if you're watching. This guy excels both in coverage and as a run defender, thrives in the slot. He was the only corner in the country with a PFF grade of 85 or more in coverage and run defense. His 5 interceptions tied for 4th among Power 5 corners, while his 15 run defense stops tied for the most among all FBS corners. High IQ defender, can jump routes in coverage, good size at 6'1", 209, might be best moving forward as a safety. That's a conversation we had a lot about with Kelee Ringo. We'll see what happens, but it's also worth noting this playmaker also provides value on special teams, man. As a punt returner, he finished with 16.5 yards per return average and looks like a running back in the open field. What are your thoughts on Cooper DeJean?
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of brought up the potential safety thing, because I think he definitely has the skill set to make that transition. I think that'll be something to kind of keep an eye out, for this season. But yeah, I like, I just like his kind of knack, for the ball. One of those kids that just gets it. I think, kind of like. Not to compare to like somebody like Asante Samuel, but one of those where like you knew Samuel just knew where the ball was at all times, and I feel like this kid has a little bit of that sprinkled in, just that knack for getting to the ball. But also again, high praise for his run support, good tackler. So I think that's going to go far for him in this process. And again, if he can kind of improve on those things. I don't see why he couldn't shoot up the board as being a top prospect for his position. So,
looking at the schedule for Iowa, he's going to get tested on the outside for sure. They don't play Ohio State for sure, but like they got at Penn State there. That'll be a fun one in September. So Cooper DeJean is a good prospect. One of my top corners in this draft. Let me see where I have him ranked. DeJean is number 3, right behind Kalen King. So he's right there, man. Definitely has, I think late first round potential.